Today, I want to focus, or this evening, I want to focus more than I have been lately on the COVID-19 pandemic. We're at a turning point, tipping point, critical point, crucial point. I've heard so many different warnings issued in the past maybe week or two from public health authorities, not politicians, public health authorities who have tried to make it clear that while we now have 3 vaccines available, we may soon have a 4th. And while there is a treatment, the monoclonal antibody treatment, that is available for people who, I guess, request it. But still, even given all that, the COVID-19 pandemic is poised for a 4th surge in the United States. We're now talking about tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands more people dying. This is insanity, folks. It really is. And the reason this is happening now, the reason it happened to begin with was because of this filthy Donald Trump, and I'll get to that in a moment. But from this point forward, I honestly believe that people who refuse a vaccine where it concerns COVID-19, now, obviously, I'm not this is a fantasy, or I'm speaking allegorically, or I realize this couldn't be done, but I think people who refuse the vaccination at this point should be isolated from the rest of us. What does that mean? Put them in camps? Drop them in the Siberian taiga? I don't know, but it requires, in order to defeat this, it requires the assholes and morons and Christian fascists for just once in their useless lives to step up and act like a responsible adult. What am I saying? They can't do that. They're Christian fascists. They're right-wingers. But that's where we are. Last night on CNN, I don't know if you saw the documentary. It was titled COVID War. The Pandemic Doctors Speak Out. Did you see it? It represented the most inside or intimate view yet inside the Orange Bastards' chaotic and futile and misdirected and incompetent White House when COVID-19 struck. Now, there's some points that have been talked about. I've talked about them on this podcast because I have heard public health authorities discuss this openly. It was also brought up last night on CNN, and that is the hundreds of thousands of citizens whose deaths, plural, from COVID-19 could have been avoided, are owed, they're dead, but they're owed national political accountability. But that's not going to happen because of the Christian fascists in this country who have turned this country into a polarized mass that can't get anything done where it concerns investigating the incompetence and the criminal action of the Christian fascist messiah, Donald Trump. We're stuck. As CNN reported this morning after this show last night, a haunting admission by Dr. Deborah Birx in that CNN documentary was that after last year's first infectious wave, when it first hit, remember that? We were wearing gloves back then, weren't we? The death toll could have been incredibly reduced. Incredibly reduced. This information is going to be very, very difficult for the people who have lost family members, people who have died by the hundreds of thousands because of Donald Trump. There is no equivocation here. This is what happened. That admission by Dr. Birx also places new scrutiny on the negligent management of the pandemic by the orange bastard, and this is a part we watched in real time, his willingness to put economic and political goals above science, above public well-being, to serve his malignant, narcissistic personality. This son of a bitch, Trump, is responsible for more deaths of Americans than we have lost in 2 or 3 global conflicts that we've been involved in. And the Christian fascists in the House of the Senate keep traipsing down to Mar-a-Lago to sit at this bastard's feet and get directions on how to win in 2022, this murderous filth, Donald Trump. Birx, in the CNN documentary last night, told CNN's chief medical correspondent, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, she said, quote, "I look at it this way. The first time we have an excuse. There were about 100,000 deaths that came from that original surge. All the rest of them, in my mind, could have been mitigated or decreased substantially. That means 400,000 plus deaths could have been avoided." That's what she's saying. Her anguish, and I've got mixed feelings about Deborah Birx. I've said this since she was first appointed by the orange bastard Donald Trump. But you could see her upset, her anguish, her concern in the airing of that documentary last night. And of course, critics fault her for not speaking out. I did. Most people did. What the hell is wrong with you, Dr. Birx, when she was in government? But last night, as CNN reports, her comments came across as an attempt to precipitate a reckoning that can provide lessons on how the U.S. can perform more effectively in a future pandemic. And truth seekers, we will have more of these horrific pandemics. They are waiting in the wings, just like global warming is waiting in the wings. It's moving towards us. We are intelligent enough, creative enough, inventive enough, scientifically minded enough, if we keep the Christian fascists the goddamn hell out of the way, that we can deal with these kinds of global issues. As long as the Christian fascists shut up, go do something, go sit in a corner and eat boogers, but get the hell out of the way of what is needed in this country to get us through what's coming. Go read your Bible. Jesus, God. Birx in the documentary last night said, quote, "In this postmortem, we have to come out of this and learn how to do it better the next time." Now, if you watched it, you saw disclosures by, I think it was 5 other top government doctors about the country's lack of preparedness, which is going to intensify inevitably a discussion about how the U.S. takes stock of the crisis once we get it under control or once it abates. And that discussion is going to be, rather than a scientific or medical discussion, these goddamn Christian fascists are going to turn it into a political discussion. This is just very frustrating. Yeah. The issue, of course, is whether there should be some kind of official independent investigation into the Trump scum's response to the pandemic. And that's going to be difficult because the Christian fascists who love Trump, who will do anything for Trump, including covering up his participation and consequently theirs in mass murder. I mean, Dr. Birx last night told Sanjay Gupta that when she was in government working for the orange scum, that while her scientific colleagues understood the magnitude of what was heading our way, we're talking about the initial stages, the White House officials who worked for this slobbering son of a bitch Trump refused to take it sufficiently seriously. And others, you can guess who they were more or less fatalistic about what could be done. Oh, well, just let it happen. It's only going to wipe out old people and the coloreds. You dirty bastards, you. Birx also said that when she spoke the truth to CNN last August, when she was on CNN, about the deep penetration of the coronavirus in our country, she got what she calls a very difficult call from an angry piece of shit, Donald Trump. She got an angry call because she was trying to warn us again back in August. Now, what Birx is saying constitutes a charge against this filthy pig, Donald Trump. So serious that inevitably it's going to focus blame on the orange bastard himself, since, the buck was supposed to stop with him, right? Now, of course, he's going to deny everything. Everybody around him will issue denials. It never happened. This is just liberal bullshit. We've heard this before. Dr. Anthony Fauci was in that documentary last night. Our top infectious disease specialist, one of the world's top infectious disease specialists. And he told Sanjay Gupta, for instance, that Trump's demands for a reopening of the country against the most incredible scientific advice of government health experts came as what Dr. Fauci describes as, quote, a punch in the chest, end quote. Because Fauci and the rest of the public health experts knew what Trump was about to cause, the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people. And not just that, this orange piece of vomit, Donald Trump, he also inspired the little pissy-ass militia boys to go storming into the Michigan State House, to start parading around with their goddamn long guns, talking about our freedoms being taken away. You stupid son of a bitches, you. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcast. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.